To understand who actually dictates the culture, you have to look at who controls the supply chain. For over half a century, the major record labels operated a ruthlessly guarded oligopoly. They didn't just own the artists, they owned the physical infrastructure of sound, as explained in my previous video. If you wanted the world to hear your music, you had to beg a corporate A&R executive for access to their million-dollar recording studios, their retail distribution networks, and their radio syndication monopolies. The music business was never a meritocracy, it was a toll booth. You played by their exact rules, you signed away the rights to your own master recordings, or you remained entirely invisible. But right around the mid-2010s, the entire global architecture of the entertainment industry was hijacked by a bright orange waveform. SoundCloud was originally built as a simple audio hosting utility for European DJs to share mixes, but in the hands of a generation locked out of the corporate studio system, it became the Trojan horse. It allowed kids with $50 USB microphones and cracked versions of FL Studio to completely bypass the traditional gatekeepers. Artists like XXXTentacion, Lil Uzi Vert, and Juice WRLD didn't ask for permission. They completely bypassed the conventional corporate traps, eradicating the need for physical distribution and transferring the leverage directly from the boardroom into the bedroom. They birthed entirely new subgenres. They took the aggressive, distorted bass of punk rock and smashed it together with emotional, vulnerable lyricism, creating emo rap. They normalized blowing out the audio levels. It was raw, it was unpolished, and the kids absolutely devoured it. They built massive cult-like followings organically.
When 2020 happened, the world completely shuts down. The traditional music industry goes into absolute cardiac arrest. Live shows are canceled, touring revenue hits absolute zero, and the major labels panic because their entire physical marketing machine is unplugged. Combined major label recorded music revenues fell by 7.8% in 2020 compared to the previous year. Physical album sales in the US plummeted, finishing the first half of 2020 down 20.3%. While streaming remained stable, its growth slowed, with 2020 streaming revenue falling 0.6% compared to the previous quarter, ending a trend of high growth. Income from music played in public spaces and at events dropped dramatically. The live music industry suffered much greater losses, with predictions of up to $9 billion in lost revenue in 2020. But while the corporate world was halted, the underground scenes exploded. Within the first 30 days of the pandemic lockdowns, SoundCloud experienced a massive 50% surge in creators uploading tracks. Millions of kids locked in their bedrooms started pouring their anxiety and isolation directly into the platform. But here is where SoundCloud actually cemented its legacy as a creator-first platform. While the major labels were figuring out how to lay people off, SoundCloud actively kept the lights on for the independent scene. They dumped $15 million into creator support. They cut the price of their Pro Unlimited subscriptions in half. They partnered with Twitch to fast-track artist monetization. And right in the middle of the pandemic, they dropped the tactical nuke, the Repost by SoundCloud platform. Suddenly, independent creators had a marketing and distribution engine that allowed them to monetize their raw audio and shoot it across every other streaming service without ever signing a predatory contract. What happened on SoundCloud leading up to and accelerating directly through the COVID-19 pandemic wasn't just the birth of a new hip-hop subgenre, it was a fundamental shift in how the world works. It was a major societal move that proved an open-source website could temporarily bring a multi-billion-dollar industry to its knees. But the absolute greatest weapon SoundCloud deployed during this era was destroying the pro-rata payment pool. See, the dirty secret of how Spotify and Apple Music work, it's this. If you listen to an underground indie artist all month,
your subscription money doesn't actually go to them. It gets dumped into a giant corporate pool and paid out to whoever has the most total streams. Your money goes to Drake and Taylor Swift, even if you never hit play on their songs. SoundCloud looked at that rigged system and threw it in the trash. During the COVID era, they launched fan-powered royalties, FPR. The concept was revolutionary. The money you pay goes directly to the artists you actually listen to, period. Over 100,000 independent artists suddenly started benefiting from a highly equitable capitalistic model. By the end of 2021, the platform was a juggernaut. We're talking $273 million in revenue, 320 million tracks uploaded by 40 million creators. They became the ultimate launching pad for raw talent to build direct, financially viable relationships with their fans.
Every revolution has a hangover. If we are going to look at this historically, we have to weigh the actual impact this era had on the culture. The major labels didn't die, they adapted. They just turned SoundCloud into their free, unpaid A&R department. Think about how the music business used to work. Labels used to spend millions of dollars developing an artist, putting them in studios, testing their sound, and praying the public liked them. It was a massive financial risk. SoundCloud completely removed that risk. SoundCloud democratized the barrier to entry. It wasn't just hip-hop that thrived. The platform saw massive evolution. During the post-COVID boom, there was a 50% increase in uploads of country and folk music. We saw the absolute resurgence of UK garage, techno, and underground electronic music. It proved that you don't need $1 million studio budget to find your tribe. But when you completely remove the barrier to entry, you open the floodgates to an ocean of absolute shit and garbage. The platform became so oversaturated with low-effort clones that finding actual, boundary-pushing art became like trying to find a needle in a landfill of bullshit. Quality was traded for quantity. The labels just sat back in their penthouses, refreshed the SoundCloud trending page, let the platform do the hard work of finding the talent, and then swooped in with bags of cash to buy up the winners anyway. Look at these examples. Juice WRLD. Juice WRLD built an absolute cult following organically in his bedroom. He drops Lucid Dreams and All Girls Are the Same on SoundCloud, and the numbers go absolutely parabolic. The kids chose him. The culture chose him. Interscope Records didn't develop Juice WRLD. They just looked at the data analytics and handed him a reported $3 million deal. They didn't build the house. They just bought the deed after the construction was finished. Or look at Post Malone. In 2015, Post uploads White Iverson to his SoundCloud. He goes to sleep a regular guy and wakes up with 1 million plays. Republic Records sees the traction, realizes this guy has cracked the code on bridging hip-hop melodies with pop appeal, and they scoop him up 6 months later. Republic didn't take a risk on Post Malone. The SoundCloud algorithm had already proven the asset was profitable. And it wasn't just the generational talents, they bought the shit too. Look at Lil Pump. The labels didn't care that Gucci Gang wasn't a lyrical masterpiece. They didn't care about the artistic integrity. They looked at the engagement metrics. They looked at the attention economy he commanded, and Warner Brothers threw a reported $8 million at an absolute internet troll just to own his market share. The SoundCloud era was a beautiful, yet a chaotic disruption. It taught an entire generation how the capitalistic machine actually works, and it proved that the corporate gatekeepers can bleed.